All right, Happy New Year, everybody. It's Brian coming to you. So I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can, even though I know it won't be quick. I read a lot of things on the internet, and I hear a lot of things, and I have a lot of people tell me a lot of things, and it's crazy some of the stuff you hear about that people think they know the background of my birds and what I've done, and some people call it sorcery, whatever. But I want to try to clear the air and make this as easy as possible for everybody to understand. You saw the video I posted actually a couple days ago of the original 16 birds that were imported by Brian Goodwin that Scott Loffer ended up with from Kevin McKinney. These are 2013 banded birds. Anyways, fast forward 2018, I reach out to Scott, ask Scott for, well, actually we used to be friends back in the Southern California roller days. Anyways, I had heard he had these birds. I was thinking about getting back into rollers, so I decided to reach out to him and see what's going on and ask him a few questions about him. He's like, "Hey, you're getting back into rollers. That's awesome. I want to send you a kit to try out." And I was like, "Hey, great, cool." So anyways, he sent me 16 birds. I lost 6, I think, in the first week to the predators. Put them all away, and all these birds were off of the original 16. So I put the remaining 10 that were left in the loft, let them pick their own mate or grow up. Turns out there was 5 cocks, 5 hens. They picked their own mates. Left them that way for 2 years, just kind of breed them, just kind of fly the birds, see if I could still fly birds where I live, and kind of get to know the birds, see if they even liked them. The main criteria of why I was seeking those was because they flew low, and I did not want high-flying pigeons. I bred a couple rounds in 2019, I think it was. Scott sent me all of the imports, or I think almost all of them. Anyways, I bred from the few that I had and the few that I had selected from those, and then I bred from those stock birds. And those original import stock birds, believe it or not, after a year or so, I didn't actually raise any that I stocked, which I thought was really confusing. But during this same kind of time frame, I think it was 2020, maybe 2019, something like that, talking with Tony Atum, he wanted some for a buddy, so we decided to trade, and he sent me 6 birds, and I sent him 6 birds. And I got 2 cocks and 4 hens is what it ended up being from Tony's. I made 2 pair from Tony's, and I had these 2 extra hens. And so I thought, well, I got a couple of Irish cockbirds here. And they're off of this 9318, which I didn't know his potential at that time. Paired them up, says, what the heck, let's just see what happens, right? It ends up that I bred, I think maybe 15 or so of the pure and a few of the crosses. After a little while, there was one hen, 729 is the one that I selected. She did everything like my Irish birds, or Irish-based birds anyways, the McKinney birds, just the way they flew, the concert performance, everything. You wouldn't know that she was a cross. The other ones, they just flew differently. I kept 2 cockbirds actually, and I still have those 2 cockbirds 4 years later that are pure Tony. But the rest of them I got rid of. And part of the reason for that, actually, before I jump into that, 2019 I qualified for the World Cup. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. You can see my crappy score sheet here. So Graham Dexter was the judge, and being from England and the UK, I was asking him a lot of questions, background of the birds, how they handle, so on and so forth, because I really didn't know how to handle them yet. Anyways, my main concern was that these birds were highly inbred. I think Kevin started with 6 birds or something like that from his old stuff. And I could tell that some of them, a couple of the babies I raised, they were, kind of just weirdly shaped. And I was afraid that they were going to be inbred. So I stressed this to Graham and, ask his advice. I was, what would you do? And he says, well, I'd call Rick Schoening chaining and get a couple birds from his, because his are the Ollie Harris, kind of the English background. He said that's what I would do, and I was like, oh, cool. Hey, Rick, Graham says I need to talk to you about crossing some of your birds onto mine. Rick says, hey, cool. So he sends me two cockbirds off his World Cup kit. I think they had finished second that year or something, or third or something like that. Anyways, he sent me two brothers. I paired them up, crossed them, and everything rolled down except for two brothers, two nestmates, 305 and 306. And those were in my number one kit. In fact, they were in my kit that I won my first national in 2021. But I lost the brother. I lost 4 birds that week training for the finals. And the brother was one of them. And I just wanted to hopefully get through the finals. And as soon as they landed, I was going to grab this cockbird out, because he did everything right. And so, I was able to stock him and cross him back into it. Now, when I do my cross, now let me rephrase this. There's 2 birds, 729 and 305. 729 is the cross of the Irish on a Tony hen. The Tony hen was number 240. And the father to her was number 32 off of 9318 and 9315. And the Rick bird was off of the Rick's cock. I think it was 163. I think was his number, and the hen was 1356, which is daughter of 9318, 9315. That's the pair they picked themselves in the first 2 years. That's what I bred from those. And almost, I think there was 5 birds that I stocked were only off of that pair. So there's one cross, and I always went back to Irish. One cross with Rick's, I always went back to Irish. I'm 4 or 5 generations now down away. I mean, there's one birds, if you want to calculate it, that are 8th of Tony and 8th of Rick. So once, because I keep reverting them back. And the main thing was I wanted to diversify the gene pool a little bit, because I felt that they were way too inbred, and I wanted to to improve the birds. There's qualities about them that I don't like, that are frustrating, which have frustrated a lot of people. They can be challenging as young birds because they fight the roll. They can, there's just different things, the height that they fly, how they can turn the roll off and turn into tumblers versus being good spinners. There's a whole lot of things. Anyways, long story short, as short as I can make it, this hen, 729, actually, I think I posted a few videos about this. 123 was the best hen, the best one I raised, off of 4102 and a son of 9318, 9315, made it to 729. That hen was fantastic. 729 was off of 32, also off of 9318 and 9315 with the Tony hen. 123, I made it to 9318, so it's grandfather twice, great grandfather. It's like 3 times or whatever. Anyways, jammed that up, and I posted a video the other day. The first 3 hens I reached for in my old hen kit turned out to be all full sisters off of that pair. I now have, and this year I am breeding from, I think I figured it out, 6 daughters or granddaughters of the 729 cross hen, Tony and Irish cross hen. I have 3, 2 cocks and a hen, off of the Rick, mated back, so it's 3/4 or whatever, in the pairings as well. Those are the crosses that I've selected. I'm not just wildly crossing a bunch of stuff. It's 2 pigeons. That's it, for very specific reasons. I recently have embarked on a 3rd cross. I think I may have posted this before. Daniel had a sister. I gave Daniel a sister of 4119, kind of my foundation hen, and he made it a daughter of her to a Heine biker bird that I'm not sure where it came about. I believe he said it was the old Ron Judd stuff. But anyways, he gave me this bird and he says, "Here, fly this thing," as a baby. I was like, "Oh, cool." It was the middle of summer. I flew it. Turned out to be a fantastic red-balled cockbird. And he was just a great pigeon. And I really liked the way that he rolled. It was very, very fluid. It wasn't like it was super fast, but it was very fluid in the roll. It was different. But he did everything. Again, he only went on the brakes. He flew. The chemistry was there with my kid. So I'm trying that one. I'm a year out, at least a year out from knowing if it will work and if I will integrate it. I'm breeding from him this year, trying him on a different hen. I tried him on my strawberry hen that I stocked after the World Cup, the absolute lightning bolt, and guess what? She's off a 93.18 and 123. So I'm making this Nucleus, I believe the foundation is based off of these Irish birds from McKinney, with my twists to improve them the way that I want them. And I think I've seen that over the last 2 to 3 years, particularly the last 2 years. I'm seeing the management results that I want, and there's key birds that have contributed to that I'm focusing, that I'm rallying around. All of my pairings this year, everything is super, super tight. In fact, I think there's 5 sons, at least 5 sons of 9318 and 4119 in the mix. There's 6 birds that go back to 729, the cross hen, the Tony cross hen. There's still 3 birds of the Rit cross in there, and like I said, I'm making my nucleus of stuff. So I want to be clear so that people on the internet that think they know what's going on here, this is what's going on here. Hopefully I can illustrate some of the birds in this video so you can see, because there are key birds. In fact, I'll jump backward just a little bit, because this is really important. Right now, everybody's trying to find Irish birds in every nook and cranny and corner, thinking they're gonna find a pot of gold in spades, sort of like I did. I didn't find a pot of gold in spades. I found a couple of key birds that were producers. Of the 10 original birds, 4 over a period of time begin to demonstrate that they were the producers. I want to reiterate that. Of the 10, only 4 were the producers, and only those 4 are still here. Actually, one of them is at Daniel's. I loaned it to him, 9311. There's 9311, 9318, 9315, and 9308. Those 4, 3 cocks and 1 hen. Those are the ones that actually produced. Everything else is not here anymore because they didn't produce for me. Or they may have produced 1 or something like that, but it wasn't what I was looking for. So keep that in mind, that you're not going to, because there's an Irish label on it, that you're going to find a pot of gold. Like any family, you have to do the work. You've got to pay attention to the details. You have to set goals for yourself and determine what kind of birds that you want to fly and what do you expect from them. I had to learn a lot of things about these birds because they manage completely different than my birds that I used to have in the past. So there was a learning process, and I have no problem telling people that after a year and a half, I almost got rid of them because I could not figure out how to get them to do what I want them to do. But I told myself that, hey, Kevin McKinney won the World Cup with these things. I got to figure them out. So I let the birds show me, and I adjusted I started toying with my management and the way I fed them and different things, and I started to learn from them. So that's something that I want to get out to people who are starting to play with these birds. In fact, I've had conversations with numerous people who have gotten birds from me. There's 2 things that are most important. It's patience and expectations. You have to have patience to be able to build tolerance, I guess you could say. They manage completely different, so you can't approach them with your mindset of what you do in your backyard historically. The other thing is expectations. People ask me a lot, when are these birds coming to the roll? Well, everywhere from 4 months to a year. It's all over the board. This year they actually came in a little later, but I did get a few earlier ones. But for the most part, the bulk of them are that 6 to 12 months, somewhere in there. I prefer that they come into the molt. Come into the roll after the molt. I think that's real important because they're not molting anymore. They're not dealing with the pains and all the frustrations of molting, and they're more mature. They're more mentally mature, and I've seen that they tend to cope with the roll better than when they come in during the other times of the year. So just things to keep in mind. Fall is when these birds really turn it on. So anyways, jump backwards. 4 birds, that's it, that made the cut over time. And again, I tell this to people who get birds from me as well. If you're not willing to commit 3 years to it, don't get them. You have to commit 3 years before you're going to know what the potential is in the birds that you're working with, before you can get at least 2 breeding seasons to select birds out, to have a kit of the better spinners, because they're not all going to be good, and have a kit so then you can understand which ones that you have are producing and then work from there. So long story short, not all of these are going to work for everybody. You have to again, do your homework, spend the time, dedicate yourself to learning from them instead of forcing your will upon them. Again, these are all things that I learned as I went along. And cull hard. There's a reason that I only raise 2 kits of young birds for myself, because I cull hard. I'm down to basically 1 kit now, and not from selling them. It's just there's bird. If I don't like a bird, if it's not doing things right, it doesn't get sold to people. It's out of here. So I hope that answers some of the questions that I see and hear about what I'm doing and the birds I'm working with, and the crosses and things that I'm making. Again, there's only really 2 birds, 2 distinctly different crosses, kind of working on a third, but I've got a really tight nucleus of birds that are based off of this mixture that I'm in the process of making. I'm pretty satisfied with the direction that it's going. Obviously, I've had some success in the flies and been able to put up kits that I actually really like and I'm proud of. So hopefully I'll be able to get to where they get even better, and that's my goal, and to create some longevity to my gene pool by using those crosses to keep that vitality going. Realistically, there's only, I said, really a handful of birds that are behind all the pairs that I'm breeding from, like this year. 9318, 4119, the 729N, and all the generations down from her, all jammed up, sons and daughters of the 9318, 4119, 9318, 9315. I posted a video about 9315. I'm starting to see now I've got more. So I finally started to pull birds as I decided to go ahead. Kevin had posted a video about this, and I thought, hey, that's a great idea. I went and I grabbed 6 birds that I felt were the better birds from my old bird, or six hens and 6 cocks, because I keep them separate. And turns out 9315 was behind a whole lot of them. So she's really moved up the rankings. So again, there's just a very small nucleus of birds that I'm working with. There's not a bunch of wild crosses and different things like that. So hopefully that answers a lot of the questions, and hopefully you guys have a happy new year and have a good breeding season, and we'll see you guys on the internet or in World Cup time. All right, peace.